Hello, this is Gary Owens, speaking off stage where I can't hear me right now. Thanks so much for supporting Space Venture. Yes, you've been a great pantload. Thank you very much, and thank you, FM.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another interview. I'm your host, Chris Pope, and really excited to talk to you guys today. Hello, chat room. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm assuming you can, because you laughed at the pantload thing. Really great stuff. A fan actually shot that in for us to have Gary to read, and we're appreciative for that, for coming up with that line for the intro. But yes, guys, we're doing really good on the Kickstarter. I'm really excited. We've got, I think, 48,000 more to go, so we got to keep pumping. And I'm super excited, and it is a complete honor and pleasure to introduce the man with the golden pipes himself, Gary Owens. Gary, how's it going?
It's going fine, Chris. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm doing really well. I mean, you are a living legend, and it is truly a blessing and honor to get to talk to you. I'm really excited.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure. Incidentally, my wife yesterday sold my old love letters to Jack and Jill magazine, so I'm a little angry about that.
Oh, wow. Leave it to the spouse.
Yes, of course.
Oh, that's cool, man. Well, man, it's really cool to get to talk to you. You are the big star with the fans of the Space Quest series, and now the Space Venture series. And which I might add, shameless plug, tgakick.com is where you guys out there can pledge. But Gary, you were actually the very first voice actor that we got in contact with about voicing. And I think to the community, to our gamer community, the opinion is pretty much that there is only one narrator that could narrate this game, and that's Gary.
Well, thank you so much. That's great. I enjoy both shows.
Or back when you did them all those years ago, you did with Scott Murphy and Mark Crow. You did Space Quest 4 with Mark Crow, and you did Space Quest 6 with Scott Murphy in the booth. And when I say
sure.
Actually, they both worked on Space Quest 4 together, but I think it was Mark that worked with you in the studio, and then Scott worked on Space Quest 6, and he worked with you in the studio then. And they both speak very highly of you in working with you in the booth, and just the how much fun it was, and you were such a trooper with the outtakes that you had, and
well, outtakes are more fun than the shows, as you know.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I had a blast when you and I recorded our little thing a couple weeks back when we were doing the little intro for our video we put on our site, and it was just a lot of fun. Really funny just to hear you running through the lines, and I kept hoping you'd mess up more so I could hear you say the line again.
Well, I'll mess up before the day is over, so don't worry.
Yeah, so well, the fans are really excited to have you on. You have been around doing this for longer than most in the industry. Tell everybody a little bit about how you winded up doing what you're doing.
Well, I started as a newscaster originally, and that was in Omaha, Nebraska, at KOIL. And the guy who was working with me as the newsman decided to leave in the middle of the show. And so I had never been anything like a disc jockey before, but I had 6 turntables, 2 Magnacorder recorders, and I had a lavalier microphone in which I had to stand for 3 hours to do the show. So that was really a spark of imagination that had to take place almost immediately. And that's how I really became a radio disc jockey. Mm-hmm. Disc jockey is not really a very good term. I think radio personality is a better term.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's really... being a personality is a big, it's a huge part of what makes people want to listen to you,
Well, I think the term disc jockey came about in the 1940s by Al Jarvis, who was a Los Angeles radio personality. Mm-hmm. But disc jockey was kind of hip at that time. Mm-hmm. But now now it sounds kind of old and cribbly.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And when you eventually made your way into doing this on TV shows, and then eventually cartoons, and how did all that come about?
Well, it all comes about just as being part of Hollywood more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I did Armed Forces Radio, I believe, for something like 9 years. That was around the world with our armed services. But I've done a little bit of everything. I've been in syndication since the late 1950s, radio syndication.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy it. I enjoy every day of it, and it's just fun. That's what it should be. Anytime you do a radio or a TV show, if it isn't fun, then don't do it, you know.
Right.
Go into some other business.
Yeah, sure.
Sell flies door to door or something. To your tailor.
There you go. Well,
Sure.
Become a game developer.
I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed broadcasting. I began when I was just a teenager back in South Dakota, and then I went from there to Omaha, Nebraska, and Omaha to Denver, Colorado, and I worked for a whole group of radio chains like Gordon McClendon and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So they would switch me from city to city, and I always had fun because I saw the United States in a way that was paid for and always enjoyable.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. And you seemed like you've always had fun doing it. Have you ever had any jobs?
Well, you know, whether it's for the Grammys, I did that for years. I was the voice on the Emmys for years, and everything I've done has been fun. And I don't know how many people in the world can say that about whatever job they're doing. You know?
Sure. Oh yeah.
And so that's a joy right there.
Yeah, definitely. You've made a career out of it. You have a blast doing it. You know, you've gained fame from it as well. I mean, you're the man with the golden pipes, as everybody says.
Well, thank you so much.
You know,
I appreciate that. I'm doing I'm speaking at Richard Dawson's funeral tomorrow. Richard, of course, of Hogan's Heroes, was a magnificent friend of mine for many, many years. And in Hollywood, when there's a funeral, you always see maybe 20 or 30 people that you haven't seen for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And as sad as it is, because Richard was a dear friend, we did the pilot for the Gong Show in San Francisco years ago, back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard was one of the panelists on it. And it was kind of fun and kind of interesting in a lot of different ways, because one of our would-be contestants was drinking, and he got on a pair of skis and was arrested for skiing down one of the streets in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Yes, a magic story.
Always interesting, right?
Well, yeah, I think so. With the many shows that I've done, as I say, I think 22 series that I've been on. But Sesame Street I was on since 1969. The American Comedy Awards, I was the announcer for that for 15 years. Comic Relief for 6 years. And every one of those were fun because you worked with every major comedy hero in the whole world. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it all, you know. I was a regular on the Rosie O'Donnell show for Telepictures, the Grammys, the Emmys. I did those for years. America's Funniest Videos. I was host of the Gong Show. I was the original host of that. Mm-hmm. Games People Play, The Green Hornet, Letters to Laugh In, Breakaway, The Hudson Brothers Show, Rowan and Martin's Laugh In for all 6 years of that, The 70s Show, Sledgehammer, Bewitched for 8 years, The Wonderful World of Disney for 7 years, No Soap Radio, Half Hour Comedy Hour, The Wacko Show. Now, those are just some of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I'm tired just telling you about them.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I mean, you really have. You can look at, on the internet, you can look at your IMDb page, and it just goes on for miles.
Yeah, they do have several pages on that. But that's nice. I've been very, very lucky all my life, for the most part. I don't know why, but always I've been a little offbeat. Mm-hmm. In other words, a lot of disc jockeys like to tell jokes and so on, but mine are a little different than that. They're kind of, I would do things like, Hi, everybody. Gary Owens Show here. The only program in town that will actually pay you 15 cents cash if you can prove you were in Fargo, North Dakota, July 17th, 1931, with Mao Zedong. Nobody has ever gotten that 15 cents yet.
Yeah. I was actually reading about that. You did all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Oh, sure, I did, yes. But beginning as a newscaster, that's what I really wanted to do, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to broadcast for the Mutual Broadcasting System out of KIMN Denver to the West Coast. And we had something like 160 radio stations doing that, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But I began as a newscaster, but at the end of each newscast, I would always have a little anecdote or a kicker at the end of it, of some strange thing that had happened in the United States. And I guess that just took over for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really cool. You kind of found your little niche with the community, the broadcasting community as a whole, and kind of
not only
forward.
My niche, but my nephew also.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's great, man. So, couple of things the chat room's already asking. One of the things that just came up: did Gary write any of the lines for Space Quest 4 narration? Or no, I don't believe Gary. You took part in any of the writing of the lines. I think Scott Murphy and Mark wrote it.
I didn't take. No, I was not one of the. Well, we had a lot of great writers for it at Hanna-Barbera, and but if we wanted to ad lib something, they would let us ad lib it.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Look out, Jan, Jace, Blip the monkey is doing a ventriloquist act right now. He's imitating a duck. You know, whatever it might be.
Sure.
So they would let us ad-lib, as well as doing the regular lines that were written for us. And that's been true of all 3,000 cartoons that I've done.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and that's the beauty of it. You know, if you feel like saying something, say it. And if they don't like it, they can bleep it out.
Oh yeah, sure. I remember you ad-libbed some of a little bit of the narration that we did a few weeks back, and so I'm sure even in Space Quest 4 and Space Quest 6 when you narrated that, I'm sure that they kept some of your ad-lib stuff there as well. And
well, that's fine. That's great. Well, when you're in the broadcasting business, whether it's television or radio, being able to ad-lib is one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, back in South Dakota, I started reading the paper at lunch to my parents every day. I was just a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would add funny lines to the news stories that I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd say, "Oh, Gary, come on now, just read the whole story." My sister owned a newspaper, and my uncle owned a newspaper back years ago. And so I was a newspaper writer beginning before I ever did radio, and I enjoyed doing it. I used to write feature stories about guest stars and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you kind of gained your knack of doing that sort of voice over because of being a kid doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I began as you. Excuse me. I have a frog in my throat. And my frog has a person in his throat right now. There we are. That's better. I'm clearing my throat with ASCAP and BMI.
Your life could be a walking commercial, man. You could totally just narrate yourself.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of commercials over the years, and every one of those have been fun. Every one of them. And I just enjoy work. Always have. And I've done it. I've been in Hollywood now for 55 years,
wow.
Which is amazing unto itself.
Yeah.
Most people don't keep a job that long,
Oh yeah, no, that's sure. Like I said, I mean, you with a mile-long IMDb. In fact, you're on the. Don't you have a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood?
Yes, I do, and I'm getting a second star next year.
Wow.
I have one for radio, which was I think in 1969 I got my star. I'm between Walt Disney and Betty White on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, wow.
That's where my star is located. But I'm getting another one which will also be on Hollywood Boulevard, but I don't know the area yet. That'll be for television.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and,
cool.
I've been very lucky in both fields.
Oh, that's great.
And I've done something like 28 albums over the years as part of albums. I did an album with Vaughn Meader, who was, the Presidents. Remember that hit album years ago? He imitated Jack Kennedy on it. And Dayton Allen was part of it, too. Dayton Allen was a wonderful, funny man who was a regular on the Steve Allen Show, who would always say, "Why not?" Wonderful, funny man. And so I couldn't even tell you all the names of the albums, but I've done a lot of them over the years. I did one
Put
with
your
Groucho
head
Marx.
on my finger.
Put your head on my finger, yes. But I did one with Groucho Marx. I narrated a Marx Brothers album and a W.C. Fields album for Decca Records, which is owned by Universal and MCA. And they sold very, very well. And it was always a kick to do that. But anyway, Groucho was visiting Universal Studios when I was recording the Marx Brothers one, and he came in and sat with me while I was recording it. And so we were chatting about Harpo and Chico. Most people say Chico, but it's not the pronunciation. It was Chico. And the reason for that was he was always chasing chicks in movies.
Oh, that's man. Now, did you come up with all that yourself?
What do you mean? Of course. Yes, I'm just talking with you right now.
No, I mean like all this all of this comedy and stuff like that. You didn't have, it wasn't always writers.
No. Well, when I narrate an album, usually that's written for whoever the narrator is. But I would ad-lib things beyond the framework of it there. Sure. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Bill Marx, by the way, Harpo's son, is one of my best friends, and he's a very talented musician. If you ever have a chance to hear him play piano, listen. Bill Marx, M-A-R-X.
Cool, yeah. Bill Marx. So, to answer a couple of questions in the chat room, guys, first off, you guys have asked a couple of times, what was his favorite line from Space Quest 4 and 6? I need you guys to understand something. This was over 20 years ago for Gary, and he's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things since then. So trying to get him to remember his favorite line might be a little bit tough at this point.
It's a little, it's a little difficult because I don't remember. I mean, I've done so many thousands of shows that I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone something I did 25 years ago.
Right.
So I don't have a favorite line. Now, they were all my favorite lines because they were all, look up, Jan and Jace. Don't climb that precipice. Just a minute. Here, let me help you. Give me your arm. Oh, that's your tongue. Looks the same to me. Those kind of things.
Yeah. Now, here, I'm going to answer Altobe's spamming of our chat room. He asked a question about you. How did you get on the project? Most of the projects that you do, like most of the actors, is you get a call from your agent, and you decide if you want to do the job or not, right?
Yeah, that's true. I've been with a lot of top agencies over the years, and usually there were not only one agent, but as many as 5 or 6 agents. So each for a different area, one for television, one for radio, one for commercials, one for cartoons, those kind of things. So that particular agent would then put you up for whatever it might be, and they say, well, the Creebly Company wants to hire you to be the superhero's voice on a new cartoon they're doing. It'll be 150 episodes. Do you want to do it? And I would say, yeah, okay, sure. And then I would do it. Or if I didn't want to do it and said, well, that's too similar to a cartoon I'm doing right now.
Right.
I don't think I should do it. And then I would say, no, tell them thanks very much. But I just can't do it because it's too similar to another one.
Yeah, so you've actually had to turn down jobs.
Many jobs, yes. I'm sorry, because I'd like to take them all, but you can't always do that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they do kind of. Some of them would have a conflict of interest, or there was just a scheduling conflict. There's no way to fit them in there, I'm sure.
Well, many times if you had a commercial sponsor that would conflict. If, for example, I was doing Continental Airlines and United Airlines wanted me, I couldn't do it because until the contract ran out, you can't do competing things. That would be difficult. So you just have to, if you're with a big sponsor, I think I did Coast Federal Savings with Burgess Meredith, the great actor, for a number of years. And I couldn't do another savings company because I was the major voice on that, along with Burgess. So you just wait till it runs its course, and if it's 5 years, that's fine. You've made good money on that, and you can put your kids in college because of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Actually, here's a question, another question for you from the chat room. Is basically saying, can you ask Gary about his classic hand-on-ear pose?
Well, that was because of Laugh-In. When I was hired to do Laugh-In by George Schlatter and Ed Friendly and Dan Rowan and Dick Martin, all four of them hired me for the show. So anyway, I was playing the part of an announcer. And of course, I am not only an announcer, but I'm also a comic. So anyway, I wanted to have the announcer do something other than just read in front of the camera or behind the camera, wherever I was at the time. And I would work with guest stars. I worked with everybody from Greer Garson to Lana Turner to Raquel Welch, over the years. And so anyway, I put the hand over the ear because that was a satire on the big radio announcers of the 1940s. They all did that when they were doing dance band remotes.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
In other words, the only way they could hear, they were too vain many times to wear earphones on stage.
Right.
So if you're at the Hollywood Palladium, and I did that a number of years, and you've got 5,000 people dancing, and there's an orchestra behind you, you can't hear very well because you want to hear what you're saying yourself. From the beautiful Perlman Ballroom in beautiful downtown Burbank, California, it's the music of Lyle Nurtler and his orchestra. Music with a beat. Excuse me, that's music with a beast. It's one of their friendly animals standing by. Whatever it would be.
Right.
So I did that just as shtick on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, and everybody remembered it for years. As a matter of fact, John Wayne imitated me. Just about every major star, when they were doing the show, the part that I was on, they would put their hand over their ear also.
Yeah, so
it became part of the vocabulary,
Sure.
I created the phrase beautiful downtown Burbank, and that's lasted for many years now.
Yeah, very classic line.
But we did it from Burbank. That's where NBC is located. See? And that's how beautiful downtown Burbank came about.
Sure, yeah. Oh, that's great.
And they put my ear in cement there about 25 years ago.
Was that for
the whole cast of Laugh-In was with me?
Oh, okay.
And they all stood on my head as I had my ear in cement there. And NBC hired a nurse to stand by so I wouldn't be crippled in one ear.
Wow. Oh, that's
great. I've been very, very lucky over these last years. All of my years have been lucky. Starting with day one,
Oh, yeah, no, it's great, and you've made a lot of good choices and decisions on what you wanted to be a part of and you didn't want to be a part of, and no, I mean that's great. Have you ever? Here's another question from the chat room, actually, kind of involving this. What are, I guess, some of your favorite voice gigs you've done, or most memorable jobs, or worst memorable jobs?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to jump on your...
Oh, no. Go ahead. No problem.
I don't have a favorite, because everything I do is my favorite. I feel that way about every commercial, every cartoon, every TV show, every radio show. I've just never had a favorite. I enjoy doing everyone individually. And that's the way I think everybody in the business should feel. Give it your best every day.
Yeah.
And it'll come back to haunt you.
Well, that should answer another question then. They keep asking, if you remember doing Space Quest 4 or 6, one more than the other. I mean, you probably loved both gigs.
Oh, I loved them all. I loved every one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, to do say, for example, Roger Ramjet, which was my first cartoon back in 1964, I believe it was. we did 168 episodes. Excuse me. Anyway, 168 episodes. And someone once asked me, which is your favorite there? And I said, all of them. You know, everything I do is my favorite currently.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's what you have to feel. And
Oh,
it makes a lot of sense, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know one of the most memorable things, at least from my generation, you did Space Ghost for a number of years. I know you mentioned that one earlier, but tell us a little bit about that, how you ended up getting that job.
Well, excuse me, I've got a cough here.
Oh, no problem.
Why, I don't know. But anyway, let me see. Somebody who used the phone probably had some strange cologne on this.
Uh-oh.
And it may have been one of my sons. They were over here earlier today. We had breakfast early this morning. They're both in the business.
Oh,
Our
cool.
youngest son, Chris, has been at Warner Brothers for 22 years now.
Oh, wow.
He's a producer. And Scott, our oldest son, produced Amazing Race for years on CBS, and America's Most Wanted for 7 years, and quite a few shows, quite a few programs.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, and they're good kids. They're nice kids, and I'm very happy about that.
Other than trying to kill their dad with cologne.
No, I don't think it was one of them. It was probably, there was another friend of mine over here who just bought a Whizzer toy, and it had a box of Cracker Jack in it, actually. That was a different thing. I used to get Whizzer toys in Cracker Jack. Now this is the other way around.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. No problem. No,
Anyway, the Tattoo of the Month Club is finally disbanded yesterday in Los Angeles and Hollywood. All the members have run out of space. So they've disbanded now. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's good, man. You've really you've gone from just doing every kind of generation worth of cartoons and show that anybody could imagine. I mean, including, as I mentioned earlier, Space Ghost.
Well, Space Ghost was wonderful because, Fred Silverman hired me for that, and Joe Barbera, and Bill Hanna. Mm-hmm. And Fred Silverman was the head of the network at that time. So he used me on a number of shows, but he said, I want a superhero, and I would also do the beginning of it like, Space Ghost, in a higher voice. Mm-hmm. And then when I was Space Ghost, Jan, and let's see, I forget many of my characters within, not my characters, but the other characters. Mm-hmm. But they were all fun. They were all, everybody I worked with was great. And I always enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I've been a trivia fan. I've written a number of books. I'm writing another one right now, which is basically trivia anecdotes for the most part. But Bing Crosby was a good friend of mine, as was Bob Hope. I would see Bob Hope probably every week. Mm-hmm. He lived in Toluca Lake, which is not far from North Hollywood. And we did a lot of our shows at NBC in Burbank. And Bob introduced me to Bing Crosby. And we were walking down the aisle one day, and I said, Harry Crosby was his real first name. I said, where did you get the name Bing? He said it came from a comic strip, the Bingville Bugle, it was called, and that's where the name came from.
Oh, wow.
That's where Bing Crosby came from, the Bingville Bugle, which was a comic strip early on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's it.
So all of those kind of things are going to be, in my book. Mm-hmm. George Washington, by the way, is the only president not to live in the White House. Did you know that? I mean, that's not a joke.
I did not know that, actually.
You know the reason why? Because it wasn't built yet at that time.
Oh, yes.
That was it.
You got me there, actually. I should have known
that.
Yeah,
that's right. But, no, I've dealt in trivia all my life, practically, I suppose. But it's fun. And when I'm speaking to people, I've worked with just about every president since I was a kid. And I would always ask them a question, the first number of the White House, you may find this interesting, was installed. Excuse me. Well, everybody in broadcasting has a cough button, but it shouldn't cough when I do that. I'm sorry.
That's
I don't
no
know
problem,
what the
Gary.
reason for that is, but anyway, what was I talking about? George Washington? Yes.
Yeah,
Was the first president to live in the White House. That was one of them. My apologies. I hope you're on tape for this.
Oh, it's no problem, Gary. It just it's great. It shows the fans that you are human just like everybody else.
Well, I'm not really, but that's as close as I'll come to being human over the years. But no, I'll tell you, I've had a wonderful career, and I'm still having a wonderful career. I still do things. I'm the voice on Antenna Television, which is a big major network, owned by the Tribune Company, the Chicago Tribune. Mm-hmm. They also own KTLA Television in Los Angeles, a number of TV, radio stations around the whole world. And I'm so proud of that. This is my third year now of doing Antenna TV, so I'm the voice on every show, from Alfred Hitchcock to George Burns and Gracie Allen.
Wow. That is
so
amazing.
I'm the guy in between who does the coming up next, Three's Company, and that's my voice on Antenna TV.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. Man, there's so many things, and I know you might have said this already, but I didn't get a chance to ask you about it earlier. But you were on Sesame Street as well, and what all did you do on Sesame Street?
Sesame Street for 10 years, and I was the voice of Alphabet Man, who was a man who, this portion of the show is brought to you by the letter M, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And I also was Dirk Niblick, who taught kids how to do new math. And that was always fun.
Very cool. Very cool,
but Sesame Street, that was at the very beginning of it, the very start of it. And on the first thing we did for the Electric Company and Sesame Street, I had Albert Brooks on the show. Albert used to work for me. He started, and his father was a great comedian on the Eddie Cantor show for years. But Albert, to me, is one of the funniest movie stars of our time. He's just great. And anyway, when we were doing that, I also had Jay Silverheels on as Tonto. And we had a crime where somebody stole all the letters of the alphabet, so no kids could read. And so I had Tonto help me find them and arrest them.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, you, man, I'm just, all the stuff, I was just skimming through this list. You got so many things. I mean, speaking of, did you ever do, and this is a question I got through email actually, you ever done any improv or like stand-up on stage?
Yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, when I began in Hollywood, I started doing improv. And I used to do act at Slate Brothers, which was a big place in Hollywood where every comedian would be. And but I started as improv because, you just ad-lib. And basically you don't have an act, you just talk about stuff. Mm-hmm. And if a line comes to you while you're on stage, you just do it. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And that's the fun part of it.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Most of my friends are comedians in Hollywood, by the way. My very close friends are all comics.
Right. Yeah,
and,
so
so I see them quite frequently, with various things.
Yeah.
But there probably will be a lot of them at Richard Dawson's funeral next Monday, too.
Yeah, you'll be having meeting up with some people you haven't seen in a while. A sad occasion, but at least you'll get to.
Maybe so, and maybe not. I see most of Hollywood people every week. Mm-hmm. I have 3 lunches a week with friends, and usually there are about 8 to 10 people. There is a movie coming out called The Lunch Bunch, or just Lunch, and Donna Cantor, the daughter of Hal Cantor, who is one of the great comedy producers of all time, both in motion pictures. He produced 3 Elvis Presley pictures, by the way, also. Mm-hmm. And so Donna has put together a documentary with all of us having lunch over a period of 5 or 6 years. And All she does is have a camera crew come in. They don't ask us questions or anything, and we just talk. And if somebody has, like John Rappaport was one of my earliest friends. John was the producer of MASH and quite a few other shows. Mm-hmm. And so we usually sit together. Matty Simmons, who created the National Lampoon, is another close friend. Monty Hall is a great friend also. So all of these people are good buddies. So we just sit and talk for about 2.5 hours once every week mm-hmm. or every other week. And it's so much fun.
Well, that's cool, man. That's great.
So when you see Lunch, that's what it's about.
That's
you know,
cool.
It'll be in movie theaters all across the country and probably on television very soon.
Oh, great. Yeah, well,
yeah, hope
definitely.
You can watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch it. We'll also make sure we plug it out on all our stuff we're doing, too. That's great.
Well, that's great. Sure, I appreciate that very, very much.
Here's another question from the chat room. Do you do anything to prepare your voice before you do you go in the booth?
Well, no, I don't. I drink hot coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I have about 5 or 6 cups of hot coffee a day, and coffee usually does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't use spray or anything like that,
mm-hmm.
and that does it for me. Just a good cup of hot
That's
coffee.
all it takes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was the spokesman for Cava Coffee for 12 years. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember, Cava was owned by Borden, the Borden Company. And we were like, Cava, Cava. And there was a little bird that said that. And did that for a long time, which was great. But I was the announcer voice for Cava for a long time.
Well, that's great. And you enjoyed drinking the coffee as well, so I guess that worked out.
Sure. I'm still drinking it. That's how I started it. And Bob Hope drank it, too.
That's
I
cool.
Introduced him to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob was such a dear friend, and yet I miss him to this day, you know.
Yeah.
And he was so funny, so brilliant all the time.
Yeah.
He had a gag file that was about a block long. You know, because he had so many writers over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when he would do these wonderful monologues, and he would do the USO shows all around the world, and really was a national treasure for the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And he was such a good man.
Yeah.
And Dolores, his wife of many, many years, died at the age of 100 a few years ago.
Wow.
She was 100 years old
Wow.
also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Yeah. I guess that is, it's kind of rough, you know, you know all these great people and have so much fun hanging out with them, but then, you know, you also have outlived a lot of dear friends
true.
as well.
Yeah, I'm not that old yet, but I'm still in my 70s, mid-70s.
Mm-hmm.
But so many of them that I knew before, you know, who were fantastic people, like John Carradine, for example, I worked with. We did NBC shows once a year for UNICEF,
mm-hmm.
and they sponsored it, and we would do dramatic radio shows like Lights Out and Inner Sanctum Mysteries and all of these things. And I had an opportunity to work with all these great old radio stars who were still around. And they had these great voices forever, you know.
Yeah.
Like Marvin Miller. Marvin was The Millionaire. Remember the TV series The Millionaire? You're too young for that.
No, actually,
probably.
I do remember that.
Yeah, he was the voice of The Millionaire. But working with all these people, that's what my book is going to be about, working with all of them. Al Hirschfeld, are you familiar with that name? Not in radio.
I've heard the name, but no.
Al Hirschfeld was the great caricaturist for the New York Times. He drew caricatures of every famous movie and TV star
mm-hmm.
in the world. And I had an opportunity to spend a whole evening with him at the Screen Actors Guild. No, it was at the motion picture offices, the Academy of Motion Pictures. And he would do caricatures, all these people, and in every cartoon that he drew from 1947 on, somewhere hidden in the cartoon was his daughter's name, Nina. So if you see any cartoons by Al Hirschfeld, it's just signed Hirschfeld, you will see hidden in each cartoon the name Nina, N-I-N-A.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
He drew for the New Yorker magazine for years. Yes. And but all of these great cartoons are so wonderful that you stop and think, for example, if it's a picture of Henry Fonda, and whoever it might be, there are the big eyebrows of Henry Fonda on there. And he was just a brilliant cartoonist, and I was so happy to know him.
Oh,
See, the great part about being in this city is that you have the opportunity to work with just about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the joy of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't come to Hollywood for that reason. I came because I was transferred from San Francisco, KEWB, down to KFWB in Los Angeles, in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time that I'm doing radio, I'm doing a million other things as well. And that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's great. You know, you meet all these people and get interconnected with them and become friends, and, you know, you've been known to be pretty easy to deal with and work with, and you're so massively talented and funny. So, I mean, you just get called back, and it's like a snowball. You get more and more work out of it.
I worked with a snowball once back in South Dakota.
How'd that work out for you?
It was pretty close, yeah, a little icy at times, but a little frigid. But yeah, I've been. When my book comes out, which won't be for at least another year and a half, I'll send you a copy. But,
oh yeah,
there are nothing but anecdotes in there.
Oh, that's great.
You know, everybody from Orson Welles to you name it on the thing there.
Yeah,
and,
wow.
I have so many friends. I would say Jonathan Winters would be one of my 10 closest friends.
Oh, that's great.
We speak probably, 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh,
and
wow.
I know his middle name. You probably don't. Most people don't.
No, I don't.
Harshman is his middle name.
Wow.
Harshman.
Wow, that's great. That's
right.
Yeah. It's not like you. Oh, I'm sorry, Gary. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you know something that most people don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't share that with just anybody.
No, well now he does.
You just outed him.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. No, Jonathan Winters, man, he is another just living legend. Amazing.
Oh, he's brilliant. You know, the thing is, we talk frequently, and he's a different person each time. So, hello, Mr. Owens. This is Lyle Nertler. Just wanted to know when you want these windows put in. And so you don't really know if it's him or not part of the time.
Yeah.
You have to play it straight, at least till you know. Yeah.
Oh.
No, he's delightful. We've done 2 or 3 albums together, and we're going to do another new one soon.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just delightful. He was in the service. He was in the Marines. And tough guy, you know. But he's so funny and so offbeat, you know. And when he used to do the Tonight Show frequently, he would have about 100 hats, which he could just put on and became that character, whatever the hat was.
Oh, that's cool. Now, I've always heard great things about him as well. In fact, Rob Paulson has always told me about his first experience working with Jonathan and how, you know, when he was real young in the industry and meeting Jonathan for the first time, and he saw him walking out to his car and walked up to him, and he was like, Mr. Winters, hi. And he said Jonathan sat there and talked to him for a long time in the parking lot,
sure.
Did all this stand-up in front of him. He was just willing to take the time and, you know.
Yes, he is. He's one of the nicest men I've known, and I've known him, as I say, for most of my life in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a delightful man. His wife passed away a few years ago. His son, Jay, works with him now. And Jay, they both live in the Santa Barbara area there. Mm-hmm. And I see him quite frequently, and I'll probably have lunch with him in the next couple of weeks here.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I'll say hello for you and all your listeners.
Yeah. I'd love to do an interview with him. You can always pass that along.
Well, I sure will. He doesn't do many anymore.
Yeah.
He used to, you know.
That's what I heard, yeah.
But he's in his 80s now.
Yeah.
And but he's just wonderful. He's just really wonderful. And one of the nicest men I've ever known. Of course, the fun part is he's a different person every time you talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, is this Eleanor Roosevelt? Yeah, I think it is.
You just
Mary
never know.
Wollstonecraft Shelley.
Right.
You know how old she was when she wrote Frankenstein?
How old?
She was 17 years old.
Wow.
The
Really?
lady who wrote Frankenstein.
I didn't know that either. Boy, you really are a history buff, huh?
Oh, I know
Trivia
a lot of
buff, I should say.
I know stuff that no one else cares about.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's interesting, though. Actually, the chat room question that keeps coming up: have you ever considered doing a voice on a GPS system?
No, I really haven't. I could. I mean, I certainly could. But right now, I've spent the last 2 years writing my book. And so I've spent most of my time doing that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, you know, everything is fun. It's all fun. And why not, you know?
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, the fans in our chat room were interested in it. That's for sure.
Well, that's great. Well, you say hi to everybody. I want you to go door to door and say
right.
hi to every one of them today.
Yeah, today. Yeah, let me hop in my private jet.
Yes, yes, if you could, please. I would appreciate it. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
That'd be fine.
Well, let's
Joey,
see.
I have a note here. Joey. Oh, I know. I found out that, you know what circus slang, what Joey means?
No. What does that mean?
That's a clown. A clown is a Joey.
Oh, really? Circus slang,
So if you're going to visit the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, you might say, I'd like to apply as a Joey, please.
Wow. Circus slang.
Yeah, circus slang.
Wow, yeah.
Right. I'm sure they have other words for other things, but...
Yeah. Well, have you ever worked with Stan Freberg before?
Oh, he's one of my best friends.
Okay.
I've known Stan for 50 years. Yeah.
Cool.
He's one of my best friends. I have lunch with him frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And he's brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant men I've ever known.
Oh, that's great.
And, oh, yes, you know, his albums have sold millions and millions over the years. Mm-hmm. And rightly so. Alan Barsman, who was a big advertising man, was a writer with Stan Freberg for years. And Stan is so great. Yeah, we have lunch frequently. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
And he is just delightful, and he's the same today as he was in 1957. I think that was about the year that he did his CBS show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Wow, man.
And,
just so many things.
He's got a lovely wife also. She's
Mm-hmm.
just wonderful. And so we see each other quite often.
Mm-hmm. That's, man.
Well, the beauty of this city is that, you know, all you have to do is look in your Rolodex, and there they are. And you call them. And we do. And if we can't get together frequently, we just talk to each other on the phone.
Wow. Man.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. That's great. It's just great to see that you keep in touch with so many, you know, these people, and you still work and communicate with them, and have a good relationship after all these years. You know, that's really cool, and it's good to see that you've still got so much work coming in. You're on some actual, some relatively newer cartoons that are either haven't come out yet or are out already. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember the names of all of them. I wish I was better than, you know, for those kind of things. I'm doing a new one with Scott Shaw, but I don't know the name of that. Scott was the artist for the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo and a lot of those shows at Hanna-Barbera. Mm-hmm. So, but we won't be probably doing that till early next year. Then I'll tell you what the names of them are. You know, because many times a cartoon is started and they don't have a name for it yet.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes the network chooses the name. Sometimes the producers choose the name, or the writers, or the animators. So you never know. You just don't know. But I've enjoyed every cartoon that I've ever done. Always enjoyed them. And also every on-camera show. Mm-hmm. So how lucky can you be? And I've been very fortunate over the years. And I've fortunately chosen well, too, you know. Because all the programs have been very successful one way or the other. And I was a consultant for the Monkees.
Oh, really?
Years ago.
I didn't know that.
Stan Freberg and I were both consultants for Bert Schneider, who was the creator of the Monkees, one of the creators. And so he called us over to Columbia Screen Gems and said, "You guys are so offbeat. I'm doing a new show, and it's going to be very offbeat and silly all the time, and I'd like you guys to be consultants for it." Well, I was doing something else at the time, and so was Stan, so we just had a one-day consultancy for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but of course that was very successful for all the guys, too.
Yeah, sure enough, man. Wow. Yeah.
Sure.
My mom's always talked about being a huge Monkees fan, actually.
Oh, yeah, well, they were delightful, you know, and the writing was brilliant and the funny. They were very funny actors all the way around. Davy Jones passed away not long ago.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I used to do autograph shows with the Monkees in Burbank. They have a big autograph show at least once or twice a year, and what you do, you go in for 2 days, and you get money for each autograph that you sign on a photograph. And it can be okay, you know.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Sure enough, yeah. No,
Sure.
I do a lot of conventions with a lot of voice actors and on-screen actors, and a lot of them do pretty dang well.
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, you know, if you're someone like Debbie Reynolds, you could probably make 15, 20,000 a day, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're not even kidding there. It's true. It very well is trying. I know some people that walk out with 25,000 in a couple of days.
Yeah, that's true.
That is
true.
It's
and
amazing.
Why not? You know, they're nice enough to come and get into the public. See, a lot of performers who are great actors and actresses don't really want to deal with the public.
Yeah.
And they're fine when they've got cameras on them.
Sure.
But they don't want to go out in public and talk to 5,000 people necessarily.
Sure. Yeah, oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Some of them are, you know, brilliant on camera, but they get a little nervous around the
Yeah,
around
exactly,
people.
because, you know, somebody will say, "Well, just a minute, how often do you change your socks?" And, well, at least twice a year, of course, you know, those kind of things. But unless you're in comedy, if you're a serious actor, I think a lot of them don't particularly like it, you know?
Yeah.
Because
cool.
when you did this film in 1958 with Montgomery Clift and Greer Garson, you probably don't remember what the hell it's about.
Right.
You know, if you're a big movie star, you've done so many different things. How do you remember? You don't remember little things like that.
Yeah.
You just don't. And you don't remember the lines. You've memorized the lines for the film, but once the film is put together, you don't remember those things.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Well, that's just the nature of it.
Yeah. Well, here's another question for you. You worked on the Green Hornet. What if?
Yes, I did. With Bruce Lee.
Yeah. Here was the.
Ben Williams and Bruce Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like to know Bruce Lee and?
Well, he was great. He was a dear friend. He was very, very good. A friend of mine, one of the creators of Sesame Street, Jim Thurman, was a great football player at Michigan State and a big guy. And so he was one of the writers for Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
He and Gene Moss was his partner. So anyway, we had a party at our house, and Bruce Lee was there. And so Jim says, "Just punch me lightly, because I don't want you to kill me right now." And Bruce said, "Well, no, I'm not going to do that. Of course not. I can't do that." You know. So he said, "No, just punch me very lightly." And Bruce did what he had a corkscrew kind of punch that would go, and knocked the wind out of Jim. And we all applauded.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, he was a dear man, and I liked him very much, and he had a great acting career.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just sad, you know.
Yeah.
Sad he didn't live longer.
Yeah, definitely. He was amazing with all the stuff he went after. It seemed like. So.
Oh, he was very good at everything that he did. But I was so honored to be part of that, you know. And Green Hornet only lasted for one season at that particular time, because a lot of the action shows like Batman before then had humor within it, but the Green Hornet was straight all the way. There was no humor involved.
Yeah.
So that was the difference for the
Sure,
movie. It
yeah.
was pure action, which was great. I enjoyed the show very, very much. I've enjoyed every show I've ever done over the years. And, you know, there have been a lot of them, but I sure enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when the new one comes about.
Yeah.
And the name of it. It'll help if I get a name for it, you know.
Yeah, sure. No. Do you get typecasted because of your voice?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Yeah.
Pretty much so. I usually play either a TV announcer or a reporter. I was watching an old McHale's Navy last week, and I was the war correspondent on that particular episode with Ernest Borgnine and Joe Flynn and the gang.
Wow.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was 1964.
Wow.
That was my
cool.
first TV series.
Very cool. McHale's Navy, right? Oh, wow.
McHale's Navy.
That's cool.
But I only did, I think, 3 episodes with them. But that was the start of my acting on things. And now a whole bunch of shows later, but I still do it, still enjoy it. And why not? But I enjoy comedy most of all, you know. Of course, McHale's Navy was funny, and you had some very funny guys on there.
Oh, that's cool.
And it still holds up in syndication. I watch it on Antenna TV. And then I can hear my voice afterward promoting another show.
Wow. What's that like for you to be watching these things? Like, wait a minute. Do you ever go, wait a minute, I don't even remember doing that part all those years ago?
Well, I was the voice of NBC for years, ABC for 20 years I was the voice, and for CBS for about 6 years. So I worked for every major network that exists over the years. And it's all fun. It's all great. You'll go in. One of the funniest things that ever happened, Bob Ridgely was another announcer. I would do TGIF for ABC, and he would do the Monday shows. So I'm doing TGIF, and Bob was a joker for the most part, and he would drop his pants frequently just to make people get embarrassed. And so anyway, he's hiding behind a potted plant in the studio at ABC. And just as he's dropped his pants, the door opens, and Leonard Goldenson, the president of ABC, comes in.
Wow.
And they're saying, and this is our studio where we do all of our promos, sir.
Oh, man. Perfect timing.
Yeah, that's not what you want to do, is drop your trousers at that particular point.
For sure. Wrong. That's cool.
Yes. Use your cool whenever possible.
Did you by any chance ever work with Mr. Rogers?
No, I didn't, because that was out of another city. He never really came to Hollywood that often. Yeah, he was back east all the
okay.
time. But I liked his show. Always,
Cool.
Our kids watched it frequently. Yeah. Soupy Sales, a longtime friend of mine, of course, when he came out from Detroit to Hollywood, first he went to New York and then came to Hollywood. I know Soupy very well.
That's cool.
And he was brilliant, you know.
Very cool. Very cool, man.
Well, I don't know who I don't know, really, in the business. And I'm not being braggadocious. It's just that I've worked with just about everybody over the years. Not all of them, but, you know, certain kinds of shows that you just do. If you're doing a comedy show, you may have 5 or 6 others who are in the same business on that same show. Then you'll do another show, and you'll have 5 or 6 or 8 or 9 people that you'll work with again, and it keeps multiplying all the time. That's the beauty of it.
Oh yeah. And do you, when you watch a show and hear yourself in the show, do you like hearing your own voice, or is it kind of like?
Sure. Yeah, I don't really pay much attention, but I do recognize my own voice on whatever it is. Yeah. Well, I think there's a little joy. There's a little heart murmur that jumps because you say, "My God, that's another 15 cents to that."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure enough.
Sure.
That's
So,
great.
no,
Residuals.
that's been my life ever since I've been here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's so great. Although I did it in other cities too,
Sure.
in San Francisco and St. Louis,
Yeah.
and Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, New
Uh-huh.
Orleans.
Oh, that's great.
I always did that. But you see, the thing is, there really are only 3 major cities where you find network things coming out of. And that would be New York, Chicago, and L.A., Hollywood. So unless you're in those cities, it's pretty hard to do anything network-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Atlanta does a lot of things that are doing a lot of great things, but there are a lot of great basketball shows coming out of those cities too.
Right.
And anything within the NBA, if you want to be a sportscaster, I would always try for one of those jobs. If I were a new sportscaster today, I would try to be an NBA announcer.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? You know, you're having fun. You can do what you want. You can't do a lot of jokes with it, but you know, you can talk about how good LeBron James is on that last layup. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. It's just good to see you're so well rounded with all of it, and you pretty much could announce anything.
Well, I guess I have. I introduced a rodeo, and I had no idea what I was talking about. People Fetzer just fell down. Oh my gosh, the horse just about stepped on his face. You know, whatever it might be. But yeah, I did that in Shenandoah, Iowa.
Wow.
I had a play-by-play of a rodeo.
Wow.
But anyway, that's just an asterisk there.
Well,
A half asterisk.
that's one way to put it. Yeah. Well,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Doesn't mean to ruin your show.
No, you haven't ruined my show at all. The chat room is having a blast. I think if we weren't careful, they'd keep us here all day. Actually, I was going to tell you, hang around for just a few minutes after the show, but we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping it up here because I know I don't want to keep you
have to
forever.
leave because I do have another interview coming up with a local station here.
See,
So,
see people.
yeah, I do. Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
have
cool.
it in about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, so we
anyway,
do need to wrap
I
it
don't
up.
have to prepare because I don't know what I'm going to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
Which is the way I usually do it, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
chat
well,
room.
say hi to everybody for me.
Yeah, yep. So that's what we're wrapping it up. Chat room, thanks so much for joining us. And Gary, it has been an honor, a pleasure. I mean, just a blast talking with you. And it's so great just to know that you're on this project. You're going to be doing the narrator for the up-and-coming Space Venture game that we're still funding at tgakick.com. So I really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Well, that's great. Happy chat room, everybody.
Happy chat room. Can you say you've been a
chat
pat load?
room. What did I
load?
say?
Can you tell them they've been a pant load?
Yes, a pant load.
You've all been a
pant
pant load.
Yes. Okay, here we are. You've all been a great pant load, everybody. And remember this. And also this. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much.